At this very moment, a ring of fire is tightening around Pokrovsk. The front line is under immense pressure. Dnipro region is holding back the onslaught of the occupiers. The shield of the front line. Footage of the battles is not for the faint-hearted. The Russians are squealing. Our armored vehicles keep advancing relentlessly. The Kremlin responds with terror, but is itself choking on the blows. The cotton therapy is back in action. All of this is in our episode Hell Point. Pokrovsk is being stormed from all sides. Glide bombs and drones are pressing with all their might. The situation is truly critical. Russian generals are obsessed with the idea of trapping our forces in a pincer movement. Ukrainian defenders warn the danger is creeping ever closer. Is this a trap for the armed forces of Ukraine? And will it be possible to avoid an Avdiivka scenario? More on this in the following report.
Covered in nets and almost deserted. This is an anti-drone route from Kramatorsk to Pokrovsk. But even such protection doesn't guarantee 100% safety.
Is there anyone on the right?
I don't see anyone. A burned out car.
Yeah. And here?
Well, it catches up here.
Enemy drones are in the air while Russian soldiers attack on the ground. The approaches to Pokrovsk are constantly shaking. The paratroopers of the 25th are shelling the Russians.
Yeah. They basically, they took cover under that tree over there, and most likely they're moving into the greenery now, right where the crosshairs are aimed. Executioner, try tossing into the bushes from here, right where the crosshairs are hitting. Aim more to the left. Yeah, to the left, behind the tree.
These are the remains of the village of Lysivka. There's nothing left of the settlement but ruins, but the Russians are still trying to get in and gain a foothold.
We understand that Lysivka is also a route toward Pokrovsk. We're holding our line, no matter what happens on the right or left. We have a mission and we're carrying it out. Yes, it's tough, but we believe in what we're doing. We're taking every possible measure, using everything together, and that's why, well, we're managing to hold back the enemy.
Over the past year, the enemy has tried every tactic here, the paratroopers say. They've attacked with armored vehicles and motorcycles, but they haven't broken through the defensive line. That's why now the enemy mainly throws in waves of manpower.
There he is, standing behind the tree, and the FPV drone is flying right up to the tree.
Yeah.
Boom! Right next to his head. And that's it. His helmet flew off. His head was hit.
And in these shots you can see the Russians bringing up their infantry and vehicles for new attacks. But they didn't make it to their planned assault. They only managed to disembark.
They're starting to get out. They're getting out.
The surrounding fields are full of craters, burned out vehicles and Russian corpses. But even in broad daylight, the enemy keeps moving, knowing full well they're under the watchful eyes of our drones.
So, right now, we've just successfully spotted 2 enemy Russians walking stealthily down the desolate road. They then quickly hid themselves deep within the crumbling ruins, and our brave infantry forces will now strategically try to flush them out of their concealed position there. In fact, their ultimate objective is to completely and decisively eliminate them from the area.
No streaming half behind the anchor.
This is going to be a thermobaric, right?
No, it'll be something with lighters.
Got it.
Let's try it now. Well, let's try to actually set it on fire, shall we?
The pilots are directing their drones at the enemy's hideout. They smash the ruins with FPV drones, and to make sure the Russians don't survive, they roast them as well.
Are those going to be the mortarmen working now?
Yes, the Lysivka mortars.
The mortarmen are also targeting enemy personnel. 2 more occupiers have just been spotted on the outskirts of the village. They're trying to hide in the thickets.
At first they were near the tree, then they went to ground. After that they've been lying in the bushes over there.
Drones are scanning and the mortarmen are shelling.
Now they've come up with a rather new tactic, let's say, using live bait. That is, they send out 3 or 4 people who move, let's say, through populated areas. Accordingly, our position reveals itself and starts firing. At the same time, an enemy spotter is watching them, and in this way, they pinpoint where our positions are.
Realizing that breaking through the defenses near Lysivka and advancing directly to Pokrovsk is not possible, the enemy is trying to wear down our defensive forces. At the same time, they are looking for weak spots on the flanks and trying to bypass the city.
The enemy is almost religiously determined to capture something. They don't need the city as a place to live. or for what they call liberation, not for the people. It's simply just typically occupied territory. They don't need the city at all because they simply wipe it out. They destroy it along with its people.
Enemy saboteurs also occasionally sneak into the city itself, but they haven't managed to gain a foothold there. Reporting from near Pokrovsk, Ole Kornienko, Zakar Komach, Fakti TV, United News.
They're trying to cut us off from both sides. It's hotter than ever now in the Novo Pavlivka direction. The border between Donetsk and Dnipropetrovsk regions right now is like a red-hot blade. There is a threat of encirclement. The Ukrainian armed forces are holding out to the last. The enemy is launching frenzied assaults. The tension is rising by the hour. Putin's mercenaries are preparing to declare victory. However, there is one but. More on that in just a moment.
Yes, the sun sets over Dnipropetrovsk region in the smoke from the fires. It is here, from Donetsk region, that the Russians have been trying to break through for the past few months. The situation here, as along the entire eastern section of the front, is tense. The enemy wants to clamp our group in the Novo Pavlivka area in a vice, and then move toward Mezhova. Together with the Marines of the 35th Brigade, we head out to the positions. To avoid drawing unnecessary attention, the entry is carried out in 2 stages. But quickly, before the sun-warmed ground cools down and enemy drones with thermal imagers detect the movement. After unloading, the vehicles are quickly removed from the positions, and the troops take cover underground. Due to the abundance of enemy UAVs, the conditionally safe zone has shifted 1.5 to 2 dozen kilometers away from the front line. It's even harder on the front line.
You have all the targets. Copy, copy. All right. Enemy drops are targeting them.
Does this happen often?
Constantly.
Messages like these make Danilo visibly anxious because his comrades at the observation posts are under attack from enemy drones. The brigade's units have to fend off the Russians from 3 directions at once.
Right now, this section of the front is such that we are not allowing the enemy to advance into the Dnipropetrovsk region. And we are currently in a challenging position where we are being significantly squeezed from both sides, and the opposing forces are actively trying to cut off our vital supply routes and completely encircle us. That's precisely why we have consistent daily contact with our brave infantry at their forward positions every single day. Right now, yes, we are vigilantly watching to make absolutely sure there is no significant movement whatsoever towards our infantry's current location.
The Russians are also trying to take advantage of the time when the ground, trees, and buildings haven't cooled down yet. It's almost impossible to distinguish a human signature with a thermal imager at that time. But it has to be done because at dawn an evacuation of the wounded is planned at one of the positions and nothing should interfere with it.
I'm on the line. The vehicle has started moving to pick up the wounded. We'll get someone out. Oh, there goes the vehicle. Pichenka, tell me, how many incoming calls do you currently have right now?
I've got the pencils. I'm heading back just now.
All right, friend, they're waiting for you. They're waiting for you there. Pass on the pencils and come back. Do you copy?
Because of constant drone attacks, this area has turned into a living hell. We only saw the scale of it in the morning.
What's there? What's there? Well, the Russians' tactics here in Dnipropetrovsk region, just like in Donetsk, remain unchanged. The village of Novo Pavlivka is the first large settlement on the border between Donetsk and Dnipropetrovsk regions.
From this current vantage point, it is a considerable distance, more than 10 kilometers, to reach the critical line of contact. However, despite this significant geographical separation, as you can clearly observe, that substantial distance does not in any way deter or prevent the Russian forces from actively engaging in the systematic destruction of vehicles on the streets and, consequently, deliberately severing our vital logistical supply lines, thereby severely impacting our operational capabilities and sustained efforts.
The Russians have already turned Novo Pavlivka itself into ruins with artillery and airstrikes. Although back in the spring, there was no direct threat of enemy advancement here. Local farmers even managed to sow the fields, but now the entire crop has either burned or is overripe. It's risky to harvest it, and there's no one left to do it. Almost all the residents have left. Mr. Vasil is one of the few who still remain in Novopavlivka. He says the village was almost completely destroyed by the Russians. There is neither electricity nor gas. The pensioner admits he left, but returned because he couldn't afford life in evacuation.
Well, it's just the elderly left. People like me, 70, over 70, 80, over 80.
Aren't you thinking of leaving?
Where would I go? I've already been away. I've already come back.
Where did you go?
To Dnipro.
Why did you come back?
Otherwise, I would have become homeless. I'd be begging for alms, you understand? That's why I came back.
For those who didn't leave or who returned, it's not easy here now either. Russian drones are hunting both civilians and soldiers in Novopavlivka. This enemy strike drone, the Molnya, crashed near the road and failed to detonate. The resourceful Marines are taking it apart for spare parts for their own pilots.
This is a miracle device.
It will certainly come in very handy and be quite useful for the pilots indeed.
When the Russian invasion began, Kirailo was only 18. He signed a contract and joined the service. He received his first combat experience in Krinky-Kherson region, and now he's fighting near his own home. The young man is from the already occupied village of Kostiantynopil in Donetsk region. That's 20 kilometers from Novopavlivka. He wants to liberate it and raise the flag he always carries on his combat backpack.
It's okay, only the foundation is left.
Did you try to find out what's going on there now?
The ones who stayed are those who were waiting, but everyone else left.
Are there many like that?
About 15 people, maybe 10 were left.
But now Kirill and his comrades have the task of holding back the enemy, at least here. And today, that's not easy. Stanislav Kukarchuk, Vyacheslav Romandan, Oleg Kukarsky. Details on Inter-TV channel Marathon United News.
Russia has adopted a new tactic, striking directly at the energy sector. The terror has become even more devastating. Putin gave the order not to spare the drones, but he miscalculated. Ukraine's defense forces are deploying top-secret weapons that will ultimately force the enemy to back down. A tough response directly on Russian territory. The drone hell is intensifying more and more with each passing day. High-value targets destroyed completely. See for yourself what Ukrainian fury looks like. Don't miss what's next.
A new well-forgotten old method of terror from the occupiers. With no significant achievements on the front, the Kremlin resorts to its favorite tactic, intimidating the peaceful Ukrainian population. Specifically, the enemy is preparing for a massive strike on our critical infrastructure.
I believe they will target the energy sector. Now, again, don't forget, it's winter, our cycle. And when the cold returns again, the heating season starts, they will strike at the energy sector, at water utilities, strategically, so that I don't want to scare anyone, but the enemy really does act like a terrorist. He understands that strategically, the only way to empty out a city, say Kharkiv, is by completely knocking out its energy infrastructure.
According to the commander of the reconnaissance unit, the Russian army simply has no other way to break the Ukrainian spirit. Moreover, this method of terror is very cheap for the Kremlin. The Iranian Shaheds and their upgraded copies, mass-produced in Russia, cost significantly less compared to the air defense systems that Ukrainian defenders need to shoot them down.
Because it's quite cheap, highly effective, and already well within Russia's current technological capabilities.
Not with quality or precision, but purely with quantity. This is the new motto of the occupying army. According to both analysts and the military themselves, on the eve of the heating season, the main objective for the Russian army was and remains to sow panic among the civilian population. And what, if not disruptions in electricity, water, and heating, affects civilians more? That's why the Kremlin is targeting Ukrainian critical infrastructure.
If this hits a city like Kremenchuk or Cherkasy, even if 150, even if 50 hit Cherkasy, that's already significant. It destroys the infrastructure. You don't have to launch 1,000 Shaheds at Kiev every single day. But you can send, say, 50 here, 150 there, 200 somewhere else, and in total you create a huge effect because you disrupt connectivity, energy, infrastructure, and so on.
However, our defenders are not going to just sit idly by and wait for the strikes. The armed forces of Ukraine are already developing a plan to counter Russian mass air raids.
We are preparing for the heating season. Of course, strengthening air defense, anti-shade solutions, and our own weapons production are all elements of our preparations for winter. The state of critical infrastructure and the necessary decisions regarding it are also issues being addressed at the command level.
Fight fire with fire. In response to the Russian threat, Ukraine is preparing its own strikes on Russian territory. But unlike the Kremlin's Shaheds, the Ukrainian armed forces' drones target Russian defense industry plants, the oil sector, and military airfields.
We need to strike at the industries that are critical for the war effort, ball bearing factories, oil refineries, and so on. So if Ukraine effectively responds by strategically targeting such critical facilities like the specific ones they're currently hitting here, then it certainly has a significant chance to, well, truly gain the essential resilience that it currently
Only massive strikes on Russian rear positions can deter Putin and his generals from terrorizing Ukraine's critical infrastructure, military officials assure. However, no matter how many oil refineries and military factories the armed forces of Ukraine bomb, the enemy will still try to break through our air defenses. Therefore, at the same time, Ukraine is also working on strengthening the protection of critical infrastructure. Meanwhile, on the eve of the heating season, experts advise ordinary citizens to stock up on warm clothes, water, and power banks just in case of forced outages.
The sky roars, the earth trembles, and then it appears. An armored monster that bursts into battle for Pokrovsk, instantly crushing the enemy. A steel fury that leaves no chance for either equipment or manpower. The occupiers flee, but it's in vain. It will get them anywhere. We'll tell and show you in just a moment exactly how it holds the front and how Ukrainian fighters have tamed it.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism, and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine today. Join us now.
This is blazing Donetsk region. The Pokrovsk direction, one of the hottest spots on the front line. What's it like to be on the toughest sector on the flank?
It's tough.
Russian forces are actively building up reserves and trying to break through to the southern outskirts of Pokrovsk.
The enemy acts brazenly and senselessly. Local assaults are occurring constantly. I mean, they are just pushing through with their infantry forces. They keep relentlessly coming, and it truly feels like, well, they are just completely suicidal in their approach.
At first, they throw in a small group of infantry. They dig in there, and then little by little, they send in more in small groups. There, well, at this fortified position, and then they spread these small groups further.
Here, the warriors of the 25th Separate Airborne Syicheslav Brigade stand guard. Their job is to support our infantry.
As the book says, we fire, the infantry disembarks, we cover them until they take the position, then we pack up and move out.
The well-known German tracked infantry fighting vehicle, the Marder, helps provide cover. It is used both for transporting soldiers, evacuating the wounded, and of course for destroying enemy personnel and lightly armored enemy vehicles.
Shall we launch?
Let's launch.
The formidable Marder IFV, also widely known as the Martin, effectively engages enemy infantry and lightly armored vehicles with its powerful armaments.
The Marder can protect its crew from bullets, shells up to 30 millimeters, and small fragments. All thanks to its hardened steel.
We use the Marder specifically when there's a heavy assault, when the guys need support and there's no way to manage without it. Even in such a tough war as we are experiencing now, with all the drones, it's very hard without it. The Marder has double armor, and right now, that's a huge, significant advantage for us.
This is an IFV produced by the German company Rheinmetall. There, the Marder is called the most successful piece of military equipment on the Russian-Ukrainian front.
The Marder has a big advantage, which is that even though the vehicle is like 50 years old, everything in it now is electronic. If something happens to it, well, as the guys say, fuck Putin. With the push of a button, all the electronics are completely shut off and the vehicle can still run, let's say, on its own resources.
The armored vehicle has significant advantages over its Soviet counterparts, not only in terms of armor, but also in its running gear.
There's also the F-111. Well, it also consistently blows hot air if you warm up the engine. Well, let me tell you this. While you're actively driving, you could potentially drink 3 full bottles. And even that's not enough, because you're sweating so much, it's just pouring off you constantly. When you arrive, you're down 1.5 liters right away.
The soldiers say the vehicle is mobile and easy to operate.
If you don't count the 3 crew members, yes, the commander, the gunner, and the driver, then there are 7 people. Behind us, as you can see, sits the commander of the assault group, and also 6 people, 3 on each side.
However, at the front line, there is also a threat to the German IFV. These are enemy FPV drones.
They are a huge problem. It's, well... this fiber optic, it doesn't stop them. Neither EW nor anything else. No matter what, they hit the vehicle, that's 100%. And well, as soon as they see, especially the Marder, I don't even know, everything just takes off, and all that's left is to, strike.
The soldiers of the 25th say, no matter how difficult it gets, we will continue to liberate our land from the occupiers. From Donetsk region, Marina Smolova, Alexander Koretsky. We are Ukraine. Marathon United News.
Speed, precision of destruction. They carry out hundreds of sorties and take out enemy equipment like on an assembly line. The special forces have achieved the impossible. Just the mention of them makes the enemy's blood run cold. The drone operators are speaking for the first time about their most high-profile missions. This is not just a story, it's a reality that gives you goosebumps. All about this coming up next.
For the 3rd year now, the fighters of the Shur-MO Artan Special Unit have been defending not only Ukrainian land, but also the sky. Destroying enemy equipment, logistics, and personnel is the daily work of the Artan fighters.
When there's shooting near your street, I don't know what kind of person you have to be to completely give up on everything and just hide.
On Artan's record are the hottest fronts and operations: Zaporizhzhia, Kupiansk, Kharkiv region, and the operation in the Black Sea.
And the incursion into the Russian Federation. And the Boyko Towers. The Zaporizhzhia direction, Kharkiv, Donetsk region. Basically, wherever it's hot, that's where Artan operates. One of the most interesting missions we've had was the recent assault that took place in the Zaporizhzhia region. It was truly a super dynamic effort from everyone, literally everyone, starting from target detection and ending with their destruction.
Pilots are the main weapon on the front line, and at the same time the target the enemy wants to destroy the most.
Today it is clear that unmanned aerial vehicles, or UAVs, are indeed the #1 target, both for us, our forces, and for the enemy, their opposing forces, because they are the eyes and the strike system. Artillery, well, it's no longer decisive. It of course still plays a very important role, but now the most damage is caused specifically by strike drones.
The guys are members of a strike drone crew. Their arsenal includes interceptors, reconnaissance drones, and kamikaze drones. And their main task is to destroy enemy positions and equipment.
Why do I genuinely like it? Well, it's much like that popular meme. I truly like how it intensely burns, how people start frantically scrambling around in a chaotic manner. Yeah, it's the same for us. A van full of assholes when those bastards start running out of it, and that's the best show you could ever see. Minesweeping, striking military positions, enemy positions. It can even be used to deliver medicine supplies or some equipment if needed.
Sometimes drones are used in unusual situations, Rengen admits.
Delivering things like Serhi tornado, food, or say, electronic warfare equipment, or batteries for radios. If, for example, it happens that our comrades run out of supplies or something gets damaged.
Narrator. To avoid becoming targets of enemy drones themselves, the soldiers use electronic warfare equipment. Serhi Tornado, I have 2 types of electronic warfare devices in my vehicle. These are the vehicle-mounted 1 and the T3, which are used when moving in foot patrols. It protects our soldiers from enemy FPV drones. Anything that is in the air above our soldiers gets jammed and as a result falls down, ensuring the safety of our troops. Narrator. The pilot of the Theseus crew says that communication is always of utmost importance. And not just within the crew, but also with neighboring units.
Serhi Tornado. One pilot can't do much alone, but as a crew, you can really get the whole job done properly. Not much depends on a single person. A lot depends on how you all come together as a team.
Narrator, Tornado emphasizes that war does not stand still, and technology constantly needs improvement.
Sergei Tornado, it's a race of technologies. What was relevant yesterday might not work today. That's why all this equipment, all these drones need to be improved and upgraded, and as a result, their effectiveness will be much higher. Victor Tornado, everything is changing very dynamically. The enemy is also learning, and they're learning quite quickly, and their military-industrial complex allows them to rapidly scale up solutions that work. So you have to, well, be inventive, find some non-standard frequencies, look for starums. Sergei Tornado, impressed. Handsome.
Announcer Yulia Chikichina, Dmytro Kurchenko, Rada TV channel, for the summary of the only important thing.
Daria Gutskalo. That's all from me. I was with you, Darina Gutskalo. More hellish news from the front in our next issue. Well, in the meantime, don't forget to subscribe and like. See you!